The storm rolled over the Wyoming plains like an angry beast, swallowing everything in thunder and rain. Emma clung to her horse's reins, her tears mixing with the downpour. Her father's ranch, her home, was gone. Sold after his death, taken by debt. She had nothing left but this frightened mare and a heart heavy with loss. When lightning cracked across the sky, the horse reared, throwing her hard into the mud. Pain shot through her leg. She couldn't move. For the first time, she whispered, "Maybe I don't want to get up." Through the roar of the storm, a shape appeared on horseback, a man in a wide-brimmed hat, drenched but steady. He dismounted with calm purpose, his boots sinking in the mud beside her. "You're hurt," he said, voice rough but gentle. Emma tried to pull away. "Don't touch me," she gasped. The stranger ignored the protest, kneeling beside her. His coat shielded her from the rain as he checked her leg. "Nothing broken," he murmured. "You'll ride again, I promise." He lifted her into his arms as if she weighed nothing, and the world went dark. When Emma woke, she was wrapped in a wool blanket, the fire crackling nearby. The cabin smelled of coffee and pine wood. Her rescuer sat across from her, his hat hung on a peg, brown hair damp and unruly. "You're safe," he said softly. Storms passed. She studied him warily. "Who are you?" "Name's Luke Carter. Rancher down by Willow Creek." Emma looked away. "I didn't ask for help." Luke smiled faintly. "No one ever does before they need it." Days passed as her leg healed. Luke's cabin was simple but warm. He cooked, tended his cattle, and never once asked about her past. Yet Emma couldn't stop thinking about her father's voice, telling her to be strong. She'd failed him. Every night, guilt wrapped her tighter than any blanket. Luke noticed her silence but didn't push. Instead, he taught her small things: how to mend tack, brew coffee over the fire, whistle for his dog, Jasper. Slowly, her heart began to thaw, though she didn't dare admit it. One evening, while she watched the sun melt into the hills, Luke spoke quietly. "You ride well. You've got a hand for horses." Emma shook her head. "Not anymore. I fell." "You fell in a storm," he corrected. "Not in life." She frowned at him. "Easy for you to say. You still have everything." His eyes darkened. "Everything. I buried my brother 2 winters ago. Storm took him, too. But I didn't quit riding." Emma looked away, realizing pain wasn't something only she carried. A week later, Luke brought out a chestnut mare. "Her name's Hope," he said. "Gentle, but strong." Emma hesitated, her hands trembling. "I can't," she whispered. "You can," he said firmly. "You'll ride again." He extended a hand. She stared at it for a long moment before taking it. With his steady guidance, she mounted. The horse shifted, nervous, but Luke's calm voice soothed them both. When Hope started walking, Emma's tears fell freely, not from fear, but from something she hadn't felt in months: freedom. The next morning, Emma insisted on helping around the ranch. She milked cows, gathered eggs, even tried fixing a broken fence post. Luke laughed when she got mud on her face. "You're a mess." "So are you," she shot back with a grin. The cabin filled with laughter, something Luke hadn't heard since his brother died. But beneath the smiles, both carried secrets, hers about the land she lost, his about the debts threatening his own ranch. One evening, Emma found a stack of unpaid notices on Luke's table. "You're behind," she asked quietly. He sighed. "Banks don't wait for droughts or grief." She bit her lip. "I know that feeling." Their eyes met, both understanding the same kind of fight, the kind that leaves you with calloused hands and sleepless nights. "Maybe," she said, "we could fix things together." Luke chuckled softly. "You sure you want to hitch yourself to a sinking ship?" She smiled faintly. "I already have." The days grew brighter as spring spread across the valley. Together they worked from dawn till dusk, mending fences, selling calves, and planting hay. Emma proved tougher than she looked, her determination lighting something new in Luke's chest. At night, they shared stories over coffee. She told him about her father's laugh, her mother's songs, and the ache of losing home. He told her about the brother who used to sing to the cattle. 2 broken hearts finding rhythm in shared silence. But peace never lasted long in the West. One afternoon, a man in a black coat rode up to the ranch. His name was Barrett, the banker who'd taken Emma's land and now threatened Luke's. 2 weeks, Barrett said coldly. Or the land's mine. Emma's heart dropped. Luke's jaw tightened. You'll get your money, he said. Barrett smirked. You both said that before. When he rode away, Emma saw Luke's shoulders sag for the first time. She stepped closer. We'll find a way, I promise. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She stared into the fire, remembering her father's words. The land doesn't belong to the rich, it belongs to those who love it. She rose quietly, pulled on her boots, and went to the barn. Hope nickered softly as Emma whispered, I'm not losing another home. She began writing letters, to buyers, to neighbors, anyone who might help. She rode miles each day, bruised but determined, her spirit burning brighter than any storm could snuff out. When she returned days later, Luke looked furious. You could have been hurt, he said. You can't just ride off. I'm not a child, she shot back. I was fighting for us. His anger faltered. Us, she nodded. You saved me from that storm. You said I'd ride again. Well, I'm not riding away, I'm riding with you. Silence hung thick, then Luke smiled faintly. Guess I can't argue with that. He reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. You really are trouble, Emma. A week before the deadline, word spread, Emma's old neighbors agreed to buy Luke's cattle for a fair price. The money might be enough to save the ranch. Together, they worked tirelessly to round up the herd. Dust filled the air, horses thundered, and under the golden sun, Emma rode like she was born to do it. Luke couldn't take his eyes off her. She wasn't the broken girl he'd found. She was fierce, alive, unstoppable. But fate wasn't done testing them. During the final cattle drive, Barrett's men tried to block their trail, hoping to force Luke into default. A fight broke out near the river. Luke was outnumbered, fists flying, boots sliding in the mud. Emma, fearless, charged in on horseback. Luke, she shouted, tossing him a rope. He caught it mid-swing, pulling a man off his horse. Together they fought like wildfire until the men retreated. When it was over, Emma's cheek was bleeding. Luke's hands trembled. You could have been killed, she smiled. You said I'd ride again. You didn't say I'd ride safe. That night, after the fight, they sat by the river where it all had begun. The moonlight glowed on the water, their reflections trembling side by side. Luke touched her bandaged cheek gently. You scared me, Emma. She smiled softly. You've been scared since the day you found me in that storm. He chuckled. Maybe. But now it's different. Their eyes met, quiet but alive, and for the first time, she felt safe in his silence. The night carried no storm, only the heartbeat of two souls learning to trust again. The next morning, they rode to town with their cattle. The sale went better than expected. Buyers offered more than Luke hoped for. As they handed over the signed papers, Luke whispered, You did this. Emma shook her head. No, we did. For the first time in months, he laughed, a deep, unguarded sound that made strangers smile. But as they rode home, Barrett was waiting by the ranch gate, fury in his eyes. You think this changes anything? He growled. Luke dismounted calmly. It changes everything. Barrett threw a contract on the ground. You owe me one last payment, interest added. Luke's fists clenched. Emma stepped between them. That's not in the agreement, she said firmly. Barrett sneered. It is now. Before Luke could respond, Emma pulled out a folded letter. This is from Judge Holloway, she said. He's reviewed your dealings. Turns out, you've been overcharging landowners across the county. Barrett's smirk vanished. You wouldn't dare. Already did, she replied coldly. Now leave before you lose more than land. Barrett glared at her for a long, venomous second before turning his horse. You'll regret crossing me. Luke watched him disappear over the hill, then turned to Emma. How did you? She shrugged. Let's just say I wrote more letters than you thought. He grinned. Remind me never to make you mad. She smiled, her eyes glistening. Too late for that, cowboy. And in that moment, laughter chased away every shadow that had ever haunted their hearts. Spring melted into summer, and life at the ranch bloomed like wildflowers after rain. The fields were green again, the cattle healthy. Emma often rode Hope across the ridge, wind in her hair, heart light as a song. Luke would watch from the porch, his chest warm with quiet pride. Sometimes she'd catch him staring. What? She'd tease. Just making sure you're still the woman who once said she couldn't ride. she'd smirk. "And you're still the man who said I could." As the days grew longer, Luke built a small corral behind the barn. "For what?" Emma asked. "Something special," he said with a wink. A week later, he led her outside. Inside the corral stood a young foal, golden, bright-eyed, born of hope. "She's yours," Luke said. Emma gasped, tears brimming. "You mean, you saved this ranch, Emma? You saved me. It's time something belonged to you again." She hugged him fiercely, whispering, "It's the first thing I've truly owned since losing home." But one evening, dark clouds rolled in again. A storm, the biggest of the season, tore across the plains. Wind howled, rain slammed against the roof, and lightning split the sky. The young foal panicked, breaking free from the corral. Without hesitation, Emma grabbed her coat. "I have to get her." Luke caught her arm. "You'll get hurt. So will she." Before he could stop her, she ran into the storm, thunder echoing like the memory of the night they first met. The rain blinded her, but she called out over the roar. "Star, come here, girl." The foal cried from the ridge, trapped near a fallen tree. Emma waded through mud, her boots sinking deep. Just as lightning struck nearby, she reached Star and freed her. But the horse spooked and bolted, straight toward the river. Emma ran after her, slipping, falling, gasping for breath. Then a shout cut through the wind, Luke's voice. "Emma!" He rode down from the ridge, soaked and wild-eyed. Without slowing, he swung her up onto his horse. "Hold on." The river was rising fast, roaring with fury. They made it across seconds before the bank gave way. When they reached shelter, both collapsed in the mud, laughing and crying at once. "You really don't listen, do you?" he said breathlessly. She grinned through tears. "You told me I'd ride again. I just didn't know you meant through every storm." The storm finally broke at dawn, leaving behind a sky washed clean and golden. The foal was safe. Emma leaned against Luke's shoulder, shivering but smiling. "You found me in one storm," she whispered. "And you saved me from another." He looked down at her, eyes soft. "Maybe we keep finding each other until the storms stop." She smiled. "Or maybe we just learn to ride through them together." Weeks later, the town gathered for the annual harvest dance. Luke waited near the barn, awkward in his clean shirt. When Emma appeared in a simple blue dress, the crowd turned to stare. Gone was the broken girl from the storm. Before them stood a woman of strength and grace. Luke offered his hand. "Dance with me," she laughed. "You hate dancing." "Maybe I just never had the right partner." They danced under strings of lanterns, laughter rising like music over the prairie. Luke leaned close. "Remember the night I found you? I'll never forget. You were so cold, so angry at the world. And you were too stubborn to leave me." He smiled. "Guess we're both stubborn." The music slowed, and she rested her head against his chest. For the first time, neither of them felt lost. They had built something, together, stronger than any storm. As summer faded into autumn, Emma stood on the ridge overlooking the land. Wind rustled the grass, carrying the scent of rain and promise. Luke joined her, wrapping an arm around her waist. "You thinking of the past again?" She nodded. "Just realizing how far we've come." He smiled. "I told you, you'd ride again." She laughed softly. "And you kept your promise." The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in gold and fire, just like the first night they met. Years later, travelers passing through Willow Creek often spoke of a ranch where laughter never died, even in storms. They said a woman rode there with a fearless heart and a cowboy beside her who never broke a promise. On the gate hung a carved sign, "Hope Ranch." And when the wind blew across the hills, some swore they could hear her voice, soft, steady, and strong, saying, "You'll ride again, I promise."